Great guys, Otechkin is with you and today I will tell you how to assemble the carburetor correctly. We will install our sports kit on this wonderful clean carburetor. I have already cleaned it behind the scenes for beauty, so that it was more or less clear to you what and where, how to unscrew it and where to insert it. Plus, in addition, today I will try to tell you how to configure these carburetors, because many people write to me like how to configure them, but I can't really explain. Well, today at least I'll show you on the video how to do it. As I can, guys, as I can. All by ear. Here we go. First we need to unscrew the carburetor cap. Here we have 5 bolts, and they are unscrewed with a Phillips screwdriver. Sometimes there are splined ones here. This is right on the old versions. That's it, we unscrewed this carburetor cap, turn it from the side of the drill and see a telescope here. We push it aside and pull it out. Now we can safely remove the carburetor cover without any reason. The float clearance is in principle normal. We can take a look, but it must, of course, be raised in a good way by about 2 mm more. You guys should have a float clearance of about 8 mm. And again, it depends on what kind of needle you have. If you have a needle of new versions with a rubber band at the end, then it is advisable, of course, to change it to a normal needle, either with a plastic tip, or with a metal one, or try to adjust it. If your carburetor is overflowing, then it will be necessary to raise the float up by 2 more, about 2-3 mm. And when you set up the float, I'll explain. Pay attention to the rear tail of the float. See him, here it is, op, here it is. When you adjust the float, be sure to make sure that you do not go beyond the attachment of the float in the closed position, otherwise it will rest against the carburetor wall. Float chamber, here it is this wall, here it is this wall. And it will not close with you until the end. That is, your rear tail will rest and will be in this position and will start pouring the carburetor to you. You don't want that, right? So follow my advice. You can adjust the tail in general, how not to do. Take a regular screwdriver, press the float and pull. You see, it bends at you. This is brass, it is very easy to adjust. The main thing, guys, during the assembly of the carburetor, do not forget to buy makuhi and eat the house during and after the carburetor assembly. This is a dummy. So, we took off the lid, friends, and first of all pay attention to the condition of the float chamber. If you have dirt here, it is advisable to wash all this dirt with a carburetor cleaner. Plus, additionally, at the moment we can pay attention to the fact that we have a bubble of water in the carburetor. See him, here he is swimming back and forth, back and forth. It's water. While we will not touch the jets, I will explain to you how to install the mechanical flap of the second chamber. Unscrew the fungus to begin with. That's it, we carefully unscrewed it and now carefully remove the throttle tension spring, so to speak. You see, that is, without them, and you have the flaps in free floating. Therefore, be sure not to forget to put a spring, friends. Next, we unscrew the shutter of the second camera with a key for 8. Unscrewed, slightly press the throttle valve and completely, friends, completely remove the entire mechanism of the damper. We take the mechanical flap by hand and slightly lift the tail of the tension of the mechanical flap, put it on and carefully, you see, friends, as I do, carefully, hooked it on the flap. Friends, please note that we have slots on the flap, on the axis of the flap, for, just the same, our thrust. Here. Have you noticed? That's it, our dampers are closed, the thrust is standing, the hop has earned. The flaps open from the middle. Oops, the body. Here. That is, we hold the flap with our finger, insert it into the grooves, everything is tightened. So we throw the driver on top. Nut. And that's it. And we tighten our second flap. Please note that it is impossible to over-tighten the axis, otherwise you can bend it and you will not have the flap of the second chamber completely closed. We installed the flap and pay attention to this small screw. This is the adjusting screw of the flap closing level. As we can see, in principle, it is minimal here, but we can adjust it a little more so that the second flap is completely closed. Unscrew it, install our spring back, which pulls the dampers. We take a normal screwdriver already, not like last time, and start unscrewing it. Unscrewed, that's it. We may notice that we have a small gap. Carefully, straight, so that it touches us lightly. Touched the bolt. Op everything. We have a light touch to our mechanical flap, and this is where the setup is finished for now. Please note that the bracket from the suction cable may not be included in your kit. And what to do in this case? We take our old mushroom and just unscrew the shaft from our fungus. That is, we unscrewed it, that's it, we have beauty. And we put it back. And if you somehow magically got such a mechanism, we take it, we twist it. You see, we have such a small ass. The DAAZ should enter the groove. Oops, she stopped. And that's it, and we tighten our bracket. Well, naturally, it will need to be held so that it does not fall out. Now we turn to the jet group. Unscrew all the jets that we have here, throw in a new washer from the kit, take the old elephant, remove it, put a new 50th elephant. I forgot to add that above the elephant, too, it is necessary to replace the washer with a new one from the kit. Do not forget to tighten the bolt properly. This is the first camera, this is the second camera. We take the 115th jet and install it in the first chamber. In the second chamber we put 162nd fuel jet. 150th jet we install the first camera, 190 in the second. These friends are purely my config, purely mine. You can already experiment yourself there for the second, 170s, 150s. On this side we have a transition jet, we unscrew it. You see, there is a 60s factory here. We're sorting it out. And we put a new 75th from the kit. Oops. And we twist it back. As soon as we have collected all the jets, we can have a snack. Now we need to change the diaphragm of the accelerator pump. We install a new diaphragm with the tail down. We carefully push all the bolts that we have in the lid onto the diaphragm, so that it would be easier for us to install it later. And now we carefully put back the diaphragm of the accelerator pump. We press and grab the bolts. Now take the carburetor cover and gently knock out the float rod. We removed the float and now we are dismantling the old gasket. We are installing a new gasket, so please note that you had a cutout for our elephant. You can also pay attention here, just the same, it is there, you will not be mistaken. We install and assemble everything in reverse order.
And now, friends, let's start the carburetor tuning point. To configure, the first thing we need to check is whether we have an idling mixture. Counterclockwise. The revs began to rise. Now we definitely need to catch the moment when the motor stops throbbing, twitching and will work as if on hand, as it is now, if you hear it. Next, we take the idling bolts, tighten it and thereby reduce the engine speed. We do about 1,000 turns with the light on. That's it. And now we are setting up the mixture again. You see, the motor started working even earlier. We twist, while the light could work. That's it, he started twitching again. Catching the balance. Good motor performance. That's how I like it. Slightly reduce the idle. That's it. Beauty.